People often do us foul. Usually enemies are people we don't care much about or much for. However, it hits different when these people are supposed to be your generals, helpers, or friends. Don't we often wish we can get back at those people who did us so wrong and plotted on us? Well, if you're Cesare Borgia, he did just that. He actually went so far as to have the men who ran afoul of him killed. How? Why? Let's find out. It's a little event called the Stragi di Senigallia. Hi guys, it's time for Real History with Michael. Let's get into it. Welcome back. So yes, incidentally, Cesare Borgia, the Duke of Valentinois, Count of Diwa, and Lord of Isidum, is one of my favorite people in history ever. Not because he was a great guy, which he wasn't, but because of his brilliance. He was handsome, intelligent, and a man of considerable talent and skill. In 1502, Cesare was at the peak of his powers. He was capturing city after city in the Romagna in the name of the Pope, replaced tyrants, and was personally popular with the people. His military talents led to many successes, but trouble was brewing with his generals. By September 1502, Cesare was sent to capture the city of Bologna, but there was concern as to whether or not soldiers from the church and the powerful Orsini family would follow their gonfaloniere and captain general in this endeavor. This trickled over to Cesare's underlings, Bagnoli and Vitellozzo. There was a fear that Cesare would oppose them in the name of the church, so tensions and mistrust began to seep up into their then successful ventures. Later in September, Cesare's general, Paolo Orsini, told the Pope that he got wind of his intentions to wreck his family, and it left the Pope shooketh. And it also left the Pope to question now what to do with the Orsinis and what they, in fact, would do. It became clear what was going to happen after a family meeting in October. However, there just weren't Orsinis at the assembly. Vitellozzo, though sick with syphilis and unable to walk, he had to be carried in on a litter, was there. Bagnoli made an appearance, as well as Borgia captain Oliverotto de Firma. Along with them were members of the families the Borgias had hurt, offended, or had a score to settle with. This was problematic for Il Valentino, as Cesare was called, because all these enemies, their forces, well, they outnumbered his. Gian Paolo Bagnoli was a ringleader and finessed the other conspirators by wording it as a preventative measure, and said that he had received word that the Pope had ordered Cesare to lure them into a spot and capture them, sending the men into a fury, some vowing to kill the most illustrious duke. However, these men had feet of clay, and couldn't get the job done due to the fear of Cesare's street cred and his backing with France, Florence, Venice, and the might of the Pope behind him. It was seemingly over as soon as it started. Apart from being afraid of Cesare, Cesare also started to butter up and began to manipulate the impressionable and susceptible Paolo Orsini with kind words and gratitude. That was until October 7th, when the outpost rebelled, which emboldened the conspirators to revisit the idea. Furthermore, Florence got wind of the plan and sent the infamous Niccolo Machiavelli to warn Cesare and offer him cover, which he needed because his soldiers were killed and being duped by their generals. Places revolted, and they hung his officials. He was grossly outnumbered, and Bagnoli wasn't here for Cesare's lofty words. However, with all this going on, Cesare was seemingly unaffected, and actually fairly confident. He was also smart enough to not enter into a battle while building up his forces of Swiss and French troops. He seemed to see this betrayal coming and was ready for it, telling Machiavelli that this was to his advantage, for he had been expecting this since June. Now that they moved out into the open, Cesare was prepared to move with purpose and precision, with each conspirator still in contact with him, trying to make inroads of peace and hopes of reconciliation. He gave Paolo Orsini a treaty of reconciliation, which were written on Cesare's terms, and he wanted the conspirators all to sign it, which they did by late November, and Orsini brought it back to Cesare at his base in Imola. Cesare, continuing his role as good faith actor extraordinaire, then ordered his new friends to take Senigallia while he moved to Cesena. On the 22nd of December, Cesare sent his friends' troops away to make himself seem more vulnerable, and the conspirators took the bait. They arrived at Senigallia upon their capture of the city on December 26th and requested Il Valentino join them at the citadel, as he was the only person the city would surrender to. And remarkably, Cesare agreed. He ordered the conspirators' men to be sent away so that his troops could enter the city, and Oliverotto was a placeholder with his men. It wasn't until the 30th of December that Cesare revealed his plans to his father and closest henchmen about what was going to happen the next day. On December 31st, Cesare rode out to Senigallia, and to the conspirators' surprise, he was dressed in armor and was surrounded by troops, while they had sent theirs far, far away. It was with shock 3 miles out of the city that the Orsini brothers and Vitellozzo met him, and Oliverotto was brought over by Cesare's personal, shall we say, fixer. But Cesare played his part really well. He greeted them, very warmly I might add, and conversed with them very easily, while, unbeknownst to them, having their army cut off from them while they rode into the city to a house that Cesare and his friend fixer, Vitellozzo de Corella, had picked out. By this time, the conspirators felt unease, but Cesare smoothly convinced them to come into his room so they could discuss the strategy for the next day. Also, because he poured on the charm, and quite frankly, the people weren't in a position to refuse him, they followed him. He led them to a room where again he spoke easily to them and then excused himself to go to the bathroom. Then the fix was in. No sooner had he left the room were the goons there to snatch up the men and cuff them. Well, not exactly cuff them, they bound them. That night, Machiavelli arrived from Fano, and the plundering and the looting was already going on. Citizens who were loyal to, or perceived to be loyal to, Borgia enemies were killed because, standard fare. And Machiavelli wrote and sent a memo to Florence about the arrests that had been made with the conspirators and had opined that they would be dead in the morning. But he was only half right. All through the night, the men weren't sure of their fate, but around 2 a.m. on January 1st, 1503, Vitellozzo Vitelli, the man who was said to have never committed a warm act in his life, and Oliverotto de Parma, a man so power-hungry he murdered his uncle, met a very, very grisly end. They were sat back to back on a chair, practically begging for their lives and shifting blame, and they were garroted. In other words, there was a wire placed around their necks, and a crank tied to that. And when the crank was turned, it got tighter and tighter, ultimately strangling the poor men. The 3 Orsinis involved were kept prisoner, and while Cesare wrote dispatches to the world to tell the treachery committed against his person. The Orsinis were pawns to bring the house down, and along with the 3 in custody, Cardinal Orsini was also arrested on the orders of the Pope. Giampaolo and Roberto Orsini were both killed 2 weeks later. One was drowned, the other strangled. While today these murders seem like an extreme measure, people at the time thought it was justified. These men plotted to kill Cesare, and many, even those who were not fans of the Borgias, were on Cesare's side and were in awe of the skill and subtlety he used to pull off this act. Machiavelli called it an admirable deed. King Louis of France called it an act worthy of Roman hero. And Paolo Giovio called it a most beautiful deception. He received congrats from all over Italy and even 100 carnival masks from Isabella d'Este. This goes to show people that be mindful of who you piss off. They may go to great lengths to get even with you. It can even cost you big, ultimately your life. Hey friends, if you like what you just saw, please remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe. I thank all of you for taking the time to watch me, and I thank all of you for taking the time to listen to me, and hope to see you again in the future with our next video. Well, have a great day, and be a little, my conic! Yeah, but fuck, shit. Borgia is my favorite person, shit. And to seep up in them until, shit. There was and to seep into tensions and mistrust, oh my god. As well as Borgia, Captain General, Oliverotto. However, there just wasn't, oh my god. And with, fucking A. As well as chat, are you fucking kidding me? He had to butter. On December 31st, Cesare Borgia, oh God. By this time, the so De Corella had picked out. By the time the conspirators felt at unease, and the plooting, the plooting. Oh God. And Oliverio de Parma, what the fuck? Shit. Can't breathe. Let's get started with it.